Hi everyone. So I'm going to talk about Clomid today. The conversation came up in a group talk there recently and people were asking me, was Clomid dangerous for you? And that's a question people have about a lot of drugs. It's a totally fair question. And so I just said I'm going to talk for just a minute or two about how Clomid works, okay? So Clomid is a drug that is used to help bring on ovulation in women who are having trouble ovulating. Okay, so you might have unexplained infertility, or maybe it is explained in some way. The doctor prescribes you Clomid to bring on more eggs in your normal menstrual cycle, and you hope that one of those eggs will become fertilized. How does it work though? Does Clomid tell your ovaries, hey, give me more eggs? How does it work? So the way Clomid works, in order to understand how Clomid works, you have to understand, first of all, just for a brief moment, you have to understand how estrogen gets into your system. So I'll simplify it, but basically the ovaries produce estrogen. But they produce estrogen because the brain tells them to, and that's the key point. The brain, the hypothalamus of the brain, releases a signal and it tells the ovaries, hey, go ahead and produce estrogen. And if there's a little bit of estrogen and it needs more, it'll release some FSH. That's the signal that it releases, the hypothalamus releases. The FSH tells the ovaries, hey, go ahead and produce more estrogen. If the body or the brain wants more estrogen, it releases more FSH, and if it wants more again, it releases even more FSH. So it's always releasing some FSH, so your ovaries are always producing some estrogen, but it's like a dimmer switch. It's like the brain dials up the dimmer switch and says, give me more, no more, that's enough. No, less. That dimmer switch is FSH. Okay, how does the brain first of all know how much estrogen your body needs? Well, there's a sampling system inside in the hypothalamus. It's like as if it tastes the blood. The blood flows through the cells of the hypothalamus. It's like as if, hope this metaphor works for you, it's like as if it tastes the blood, or it samples the blood and says, that's how much estrogen you got. Okay, need a bit more, so we'll release some more FSH. The FSH will go to the ovaries, they'll produce more estrogen. That'll circulate in the blood, and then the sampling system in the hypothalamus will sense, oh, there's more estrogen, that's fine, job done. And then it'll keep sampling it, and it keeps adjusting its dose of FSH that it pumps out of its brain in order to balance the amount of estrogen that the body needs. And the woman's body, needs more estrogen at certain times than others. So there's these other mechanisms in the brain telling it what the target should be. But then in the hypothalamus, there's this sampling system that says, what actually is it? So I'm tasting the blood, that's how much estrogen's there, okay. Give me some more, give me less. So it's more FSH or less FSH. Okay, so that's basically how it works. There's a feedback and sensing system. How does Clomid work? Clomid blocks that feedback system. So you take the drug, it goes all over your body, but some of it goes to your brain, some of it goes to your hypothalamus, and it's designed to block the sensing system that I just mentioned in the hypothalamus. It's like it blocks it, like it puts a wrapper around it. Specifically what it does is it blocks the cell receptors in the hypothalamus that are measuring the amount of estrogen flowing through them in that moment. So now the hypothalamus can't see or can't sense or can't taste, to use my analogy, the amount of estrogen. The estrogen can be there, but that part of the brain can't see it, or at least it can't fully see it. It's not fully blocked, it's kind of partially blocked. So the sense that the hypothalamus gets is, estrogen's kind of gone a bit low here. That's the effect of Clomid. Clomid makes the brain, that part of the brain, think, oh, the estrogen is kind of low here. Better pump out FSH and get the ovaries to produce more. And so to the extent that Clomid blocks that part of the brain from working, temporarily, the response by the brain is more FSH, goes to the ovaries, and they're supposed to produce more estrogen. That's how it works. Now, when you stop taking the Clomid, it eventually washes out of the body. Does it have a residual effect? Yeah, depending on how long you take it for, depending on the dose you take it for, it can have a residual effect. It can create, it deliberately creates a kind of a dysregulation. And that's the question. Why would the doctor then put you on it if it creates a dysregulation? The answer is that they've more than likely, they should have already tested your blood in the lab. So they did the sampling for the estrogen somewhere else rather than your hypothalamus doing it. And they measured your blood and they looked at it in the reference range and they said, it's kind of low. Maybe that's why you're not producing enough eggs. Maybe that's why you can't get pregnant. Okay, we'll give you Clomid. That blocks your brain's ability to sense the estrogen. Your brain will respond by putting out more FSH and the ovaries will respond by putting out more estrogen. That's kind of the simple view of it. So it's like there's had to be a blood test first. Now, the question is, why in the first place would your estrogen be low? And this is the ultimate question, is like, why do you need Clomid? And could you do something else? Could you achieve the same thing without using Clomid? The answer is it depends on the person, but I'll give you a quick answer as to why in the first place your body, even though it's able to produce FSH, even though it's able to produce estrogen, why is it not syncing up and giving you the right amount? Why do you need to force it, so to speak, with the Clomid? The answer is inflammation. There's two main answers. Inflammation is the biggest answer. The other one is you just don't have enough nutrients on board your body to go ahead and produce everything you need to produce. All of your nutrients are constantly being used to make stuff in your body, like hormones and bones and skin and teeth and everything that you do, digestive secretions. There's an enormous demand for nutrients throughout your body all the time. So if you're not eating a good diet that suits your body, your nutrient level will be low. And this means in your ovaries, it'll also be low. So when the FSH comes to your ovaries and says, hey, produce estrogen, the ovaries are like, I'm trying. But maybe they don't have enough iron, or maybe they don't have enough zinc, or maybe they don't have enough copper. That's a big reason for why your own body can't actually produce the amount of estrogen it needs to create successful, vibrant ovulation. But I mentioned inflammation. That's a bigger reason. And inflammation is a bigger topic. I'll have another video on what inflammation is. It's a topic in its own right. But just as a quick one, I'll give you an analogy for inflammation. It's like noise in the body. Chemical noise, in fact. So if the FSH is released by the brain and it's supposed to go to the ovaries, and the ovaries are supposed to respond by producing estrogen, well, if there's a lot of noise in the body, if there's a lot of noise down around the ovaries, can't really hear the signal. That's kind of what inflammation is. Now, it's a lot more than that, but that's a very simple view of it. So inflammation gets in the way of the internal communication system of the body. It's more complicated than that, because inflammation itself is part of the communication system. It's just that it's kind of overriding the other communication. It's like there's a reason for the inflammation. It's causing a problem in the body. But the only way you can deal with it is by reducing the inflammation down to a baseline amount. That's the goal. That's when you don't need Clomid. That's the goal. We'll talk about inflammation in the next video.